now look, it's starting to weaken a little bit, and the amount of those high winds is coming down. So I could query some of these. I mean, they're basically, it depends on where you grab it at, but really, that's going to be anywhere from, I'd say, 100 to 115 mile per hour winds. There's 70 there, 73. Okay, they're coming down now. That's good news. 66. So good. Actually, those winds are really coming down. But we could go with gusts in the 80s as this moves through, especially in this brown area that you see right in here, which is right over top of Anna Maria Island, Bradenton, heading on down to the northern end of Longboat Key as well, too. Gosh, the backside of Longboat Key is getting a ton of wind right now. Those will be gusts in the 70s and 80s. And again, it's shrinking, so by the time this gets over to Duet, we won't have as much wind with that. It will start to fall apart at least a little bit. Forecast track takes it off to the east-northeast. You can see right across Polk County. That means that this heavy band of rain that you see right here, those darker reds, will go just like that across Plant City, Brandon, Lakeland, Fishhawk, Bartow will get very heavy rainfall as well. That I-4 corridor, I mean, man, oh man, a ton of rain there. That could generally end up being at least, I'd say, 7 to 10 inches of rainfall by the time it's all said and done on the I-4 corridor. And there'll be some spots, well, we've already got 8+ for parts of Pinellas, and we're still adding on to it. And in fact, let's just look at a couple spots right now. You're going to notice, look at all these bright yellows. So all of those are basically numbers that are going to be, let's get over here, Bel Air Bluffs, South St. Pete. We're talking 10, we're already pushing 10 inches, like a foot of rain south of downtown St. Petersburg. Now that's estimated by the Doppler, but that's legit. That'll pan out. We'll see some spots that are just like that. You get down towards Anna Maria Island, and this is water from the sky. This is not water from the ground, about 10 inches there. And then this should spread more as we get towards Brandon and Lakeland through the next 3 to 4 hours or so. It's going to take that long, really, before we get out here, especially 3 hours. Now, the track, you can see what it was where we tracked it from before. It's basically going to continue to move to the north and the east. This is midnight, and so those strong rain bands are right in here now. I think it's a little bit further to the south. But what's happening up into Pasco, Hernando, and Citrus is still really heavy rainfall. And in fact, the winds will stay steady, especially in eastern Pasco County, Dade City, Zephyr Hills. I think the winds will actually come up just a little bit. And same thing over in eastern parts of Hernando County. And then, yeah, I think even eastern Citrus, well, the winds will come up a little bit. This is moving up through Orlando eventually. That's around midnight tonight. And then gradually, as we get past midnight, the winds turn to the north and the northwest, but they start coming down. We'll still get some real high gusts, especially from Bel Air all the way up, Indian Rocks Beach, really, all the way up. We'll see some pretty good wind gusts coming in off the Gulf of Mexico. But overall, by that time, the storm center is out just south of Orlando and moving towards the Space Coast. Okay, that's 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Sun's coming up. We get to see what the damage was. Winds are dying down. Temperatures are cool. It's like 70 degrees outside right now. We don't mention that much during hurricanes, but it's much cooler. And tomorrow, drier air is moving in. It's going to feel good. It's our first cold front, really, of the season. Still have the the hurricane warnings. Tornado watch has been pulled back just a little bit. This is the wind profile. And watch how the size of this gets smaller as it moves onshore. So Cat 1 all the way over, except the Cat 1 winds will be in this small little area right here near Cape Canaveral. All right, right over the Space Coast. This is 6 a.m., by the way. Look how the winds are in the yellow now for the Tampa area, really coming down. And then really by about 8 o'clock, they're almost all out of that, gusts in the 40s. And so it'll be breezy tomorrow, north to northwest winds, but we're talking winds in the teens and 20s with gusts up to maybe 30 miles per hour. So a little bit on the breezy side, but it'll feel nice out there. So we're looking pretty good, guys, at this particular point. We still got a long night ahead of us, especially in the next 3 to 4 hours, especially Manatee County, southern Hillsborough, and then we're going to push it into Polk County closer to midnight tonight.
All right, I'm Dave Wagner along with Courtney Robinson. You're watching 10 Tampa Bay, and here are our continuing coverage of Hurricane Milton. It's been a crazy few hours trying to kind of process this as we think about our own homes and own families, and then we think of all the others in our area impacted. Again, some of us might have been spared, but keep in mind others are really hurting tonight. So we'll get a better idea come the light of day who really was impacted most by this storm.
And it was the wind. There's still surge waters impacting people, and there are other impacts as well during this event. Right now, the wastewater treatment plants in St. Pete, the northeast and southwest wastewater treatment plants, those have been taken offline. This was something that the city of St. Pete said that they would most likely do. They did this during Hurricane Helene as well to protect that. But what this means for you and your home, anything that you drain, so if you flush the toilet, that can back up into your home. So you want to avoid doing that. They hope to have those on, I think, within like the next 48 hours. But again, that will all depend on what we find.
Yeah, and that's, with Helene, it was 48 hours after the storm had ended. So
Right.
Who knows when that might start. But they'll give us an idea when that will happen. Here's a live look right now. This is Park Boulevard. We're taking a look here at Oakhurst Road. I believe we have a live picture. Yep. And you see the stoplights there kind of spinning around as you would expect during a hurricane force winds there. But yeah, strong winds anyway. Hurricane coming in, you would expect street lights to be moving around a bit.
I want to show you some video. Now, this was earlier, obviously, when it's daylight. Right now, it is too dark and it is much too windy out. Bobby, take a look at this. This is the Hillsborough Bay, kind of at the very, almost like the southern peninsula, right, of South Tampa. And you can just see that the outgoing water, right, pulling it out of the bay. This was earlier, again, where you could see it in the daylight, but now the person who said this, you know, it's just too dark and it's too windy. It's not safe right now to go out, but they say still looking good. The water's still really low right there. This is on the east side of South Tampa.
Yeah. Looking live at Key West right now, heading to Key West, Florida, the southernmost point of Florida. And this is what it looks like there. Wow.
Is that Key West?
Is that Key West that we're looking at? That is really,
wow.
That's more rain and more wind than I anticipated. Is that what you would expect down there right now in Key West, Bobby?
No. No.
Yeah.
No, I'm looking at that wondering where is that?
Yeah.
I don't know where that is on Key West. It doesn't, but we
Do they have buildings
do have
that
a
big
live
down there?
camera outside of where we are here in Eastlake. This is on Hillsborough Avenue, and we can hear it outside, right?
Yep.
That wind coming through, the rain coming down. Good news to whoever parked in front. Your cars are okay.
All right. We are keeping an eye on as many places as we can, trying to bring you these live pictures because, boy, it varies so much from place to place to place, whether or not you're north, south, east or west. It just makes a big difference where you are and how this storm impacted you.
Yeah, we have Luke Clary, who is live for us in St. Pete, and he's inside. Oh, you've come back out. Okay, you were inside of your hotel the last time we spoke with you, Luke, and they had really shut those doors and really didn't want people coming in or out. What's going on now?
Hey guys, yeah, we just stepped outside of the hotel. We wanted to bring you a view of the winds out here. I know a lot of people are maybe breathing a sigh of relief, feeling that they dodged a bullet here in St. Pete, but I just wanted to show you how powerful the winds are still blowing here. This is on 4th Street and 3rd Avenue, and as you can see, the trees there are blowing in the wind. The signs are really moving back and forth. Actually, if we take a look over here, Daisy, you can also see the tree branches swaying in the wind, and you may be able to make out some of the branches that have fallen on the ground here. So a lot of flying debris. This is just not a place that you really want to be right now. We're standing underneath an awning just outside of our hotel so we can bring you these images, and soon we're going to be heading right back inside. I want to show you some video from earlier on this very same street corner, and you might be able to make out in the distance there some flashing lights. Those are some transformers flashing, and we've seen our power flickering on and off here throughout the course of the evening. So far in this building, and as far as I can tell, in this neighborhood, the power is still on, which people can breathe a sigh of relief for the moment. But as you can clearly see, if you come back out here to us live, this is a very powerful storm. The winds are blowing up and down the streets here. The rain is coming down in sheets. We just wanted to step outside here for a moment so you can get a look at this.
While you're down there, you talked about debris. Have you seen debris flying down the streets? Because there's so much of it in St. Pete.
I have not seen anything flying through the air right now. If you just look straight across that intersection there, though, you might be able to see a number of branches on the ground there as well. And the water is just starting to pool up. Can you see that in the gutter there running through? But I've not seen much in the way of flying debris so far, so that's fortunate.
Yeah, that is fortunate, because that's kind of been our concern, that they just could not get around quickly enough in St. Petersburg to pick up all that debris from Helene. And, you know, we all have debris around our neighborhoods, and we've been looking at it thinking, oh no, here's this powerful hurricane coming our way, and the ability of this storm to pick it up and to, you know, projectiles. So
a very big concern, and what
Yeah.
we were, you know, people really pressing crews about.
Right.
I want to give you a live look at Ulmerton Road at Seminole Boulevard. This is in Largo, and you know, here you can kind of see much of the same, right, with that wind really pushing through. I was wondering if we may see some of that debris kind of flying through here. You know, you know, these city communities that our cities that we're talking about, we haven't really seen as much of that, but it's those barrier islands where so much of it, I mean, they really did their best to remove things, but with the surge, it was anticipated that it would be in the Gulf, and of course picked up by the winds and tossed where it didn't need to go.
yeah, I mean, you look at the wind right there, and imagine, you know how windy it can be out at the beach, and how
Oh,
exposed
yeah.
some of those areas are, like Tierra Verde, like Anna Maria Island, like Siesta Key. You know, there's just kind of narrow pieces of land in some cases that separate bodies of water, and the wind really whips over those places. So this is what we're seeing up there. You know, and again, some of these areas, you know, with Helene, people did not evacuate, and so I'm grateful that so many people did, and we saw those people on the roads over the past couple of days really getting out of town. Wow, look at that, right, Pinellas Park.
Ed.
Oh, downtown
That's,
Tampa.
I know. I was
Okay.
like, I was actually trying to
Oh.
get my bearings. I was like, I think this is
Yeah.
downtown Tampa.
Yeah.
This is downtown Tampa, and same, right, where you're really seeing the wind kind of pushing through in these narrow, in between the buildings, and
We've had
what's
the
that?
82-mile-per-hour gusts at Tampa.
Well,
82-mile-per-hour gusts at
82.
Tampa.
Tampa, yeah.
We've had 90 at St. Pete.
and when you say at
mean
Tampa
Tampa
International?
International.
Tampa International.
Tampa International and
Yep.
St. Pete Clearwater Airport. Okay.
St. Pete Clearwater had or St. Petersburg, probably was Albert Whitted.
Okay.
Okay.
Had 90.
Wow.
And we just got 100-mile-per-hour wind gusts out on Egmont Key.
Wow. And that's not surprising. Always windier out there, but boy, that's very strong. The winds out there.
Are these records, Bobby? It's hard too early to tell right now. Not to put you on the spot.
Well,
but-
you know, the records, because last time we got hit like this was in 21
Yeah.
with a big storm,
Yeah.
and we didn't have as many locations. And so we may not have a record at Egmont Key at that time. I don't know about that particular
Okay.
time.
This is outside our remote studios here in Tampa. You get
Yeah,
kind of
look
a
at that.
sense as to what it's like outside.
Hillsborough
we're protected.
Avenue.
Yeah, Hillsborough Avenue. Yep. And we're in a protected building, so we feel good about that. We're on high land, so that's an important thing. And hope you are, wherever you are right now, in a safe place and feel good about it.
Bobby, just for people who are listening and they've taken the phone into that safe space, stay in there. You know, just keep kind of kind
Yeah.
of pushing through the back end of this.
Yeah, it looks to me now that the worst of it is actually getting to be still down there in Manatee County. But if you're down in southwest, say Palmetto area,
Okay.
you know, that area, and eventually really close to Apollo Beach, that's where the heaviest winds are going to be.
Okay.
The further north you get up there, even in downtown Tampa, I mean, yeah, gusts in the 80s, but nothing like, you know, 100-mile-per-hour gusts we have out at Egmont. Egmont, we expect, as you said, Dave, it's a northeast wind. It's literally coming right down the bay.
Yep.
So we expect that to be high, but certainly in the 90s there on that coast near Port Manatee, Palmetto, the Skyway Bridge, and that's all shifting over towards Sun City Center. And in fact, Ruskin right now just starting to really get into the heavy wind.
Ruskin right now.
Yeah.
And Egmont Key got really hammered with Helene as well. It really created a mess out there. Miguel Octavio joins us right now. He's standing by live. Miguel, where are you right now? What are you seeing?
Hey, Dave, we're still here in Lakeland, and I can certainly tell you the winds are really picking up at times. We have pockets of wind just gushing over here, and the concern here for Polk County are certainly those winds. They worry this is going to continue to knock down power lines and continue to lead to power outages in many parts of the county as well. Now, at the hotel that we're at, we have a number of people who actually live in the Pinellas and Hillsborough side of Tampa Bay. They were very concerned hearing those storm surge projections, seeing how strong the winds could be, and of course the flooding from the rain as well. And just speaking to some people at that hotel, they know they're not out of the woods yet. They know the winds continue to be a threat. They know that rain continues to be a threat, but they feel a sense of, I would say, guilt, but relief that they were somewhat spared, perhaps in the Pinellas side, some of the stronger storm surge projections. Meanwhile, further south in Sarasota and further south from that as well, they're expecting some of that storm surge to be much worse. Right now, they're keeping an eye on their homes, looking through their ring cameras as long as they can before the power goes out. I actually spoke to one woman who evacuated to this hotel with her 3-year-old daughter and her husband. In the past, they never really evacuated before, but seeing the impact from Helene and seeing the projections for this storm, they wanted to make sure they were safe. Let's take a listen to what she had to say here if we're able to pull up that soundbite.
I feel bad for people who actually gets really hit, because I think will be a lot of flooding and damage again, and I hope these people evacuated, because it's the right thing to do if you're under that danger.
Yeah, and that mother, we spoke to, her name is Katerina. Again, she hasn't in the past really evacuated before, but seeing those projections, she wanted to make sure she and her family were safe. And right now, she was telling me, although her home in the Pinellas side, we know that there's still the threat of rain and wind out there, but she knows this isn't over yet. But she's really hoping those other people who live in those more vulnerable areas, especially down to our south in the Sarasota Manatee side, took those evacuation orders seriously and that they can be safe. So there's a bit of relief from people here when it comes to those storm surge projections, but they know the wind continues to move across the state, cuts across the state. They're continuing to anticipate the impact here from the power outages, those winds, especially the impact on those mobile home parks, RVs and campers as well. That's why they were trying to get as many people into those shelters as fast as they can before the brunt of this storm. Certainly right now would be too late. This is not the safe kind of conditions to drive in. We're under some sort of awning here, keeping us somewhat protected, but I can tell you the wind is picking up a bit more, some flickering of the lights here, so we're anticipating the potential for power outages here and throughout the county. So right now they're just hoping people continue to shelter in place, because they're anticipating this storm to continue to wreak havoc in some ways as it cuts across the state here. Dave and Courtney.
That's right, and you do want to shelter in place right now. That is really good advice. Again, Hurricane Milton making landfall around 8:30 this evening as a Category 3 storm making landfall in Siesta Key. Chris Vickers is with us, and Chris, when we look at look at Hurricane Milton. This was twice at Category 5 strength.
Right, yeah. It went through those ebbs and flows, and we expected there would be some weakening as it approached landfall. We anticipated it would be somewhere between a Category 3 and at one point even as dire as a Category 4 storm, and that situation certainly off the table as it has now made landfall as a Category 3 storm. This was just about less than an hour ago at winds to 120 miles per hour right over the Siesta Key area. Now, what we're feeling right now is the brunt of some of the higher winds and really torrential rain. We still have that extreme wind warning. Again, one of those more rare alerts that's issued when you get a tropical cyclone such as this that makes landfall, as that eye center or the center of the eye wall comes onshore, comes with some of the highest winds, and those extreme wind gusts continuing to come across parts of Pinellas County, into Hillsborough County, and inland of I-75 as well. So some of the wind gusts that we've seen, Egmont Channel, 100 miles per hour, St. Pete, Clearwater, 83. We had Sarasota, Bradenton at 93 miles per hour, down toward Venice, 97 miles per hour, where some of the high wind reports that have come in and some of the higher winds now coming through Lakeland and Tampa. So we do anticipate that those numbers are likely to go up. That is as of 9 p.m., some of those high winds. So that high wind field is going to continue to make its way more inland. It's pushing with all that force, because again, that was generating that force. Milton had been really drawing its energy from that warmer tropical tropical waters. It did encounter the higher wind shear and some drier air that eventually did do some weakening as it made its approach to the Florida coastline, so we're fortunate for that. But now that energy, that momentum is carrying inland and some of those higher winds where they still could reach to about 100 miles per hour, potentially even for a few areas inland, where we're going to see those high winds cut across the state of Florida, and eventually those winds are going to pick up even more so toward Lakeland as we go through the next 30 to 60 minutes. Those higher winds are going to be arriving. This is likely to make its way all the way across the I-94 or 5 corridor as at least Category 1 hurricane as we go into tomorrow morning. So current winds, maybe they're howling outside, and if you continue to have power and you've got the TV signal or you're streaming our coverage live, we've got winds gusting across the area in some instances over 80 miles per hour. Now that is a brand new update. Looks like Tampa reporting an 82-mile-per-hour gust. Down towards St. Petersburg, 86 miles per hour, and closer to the eye. If things have gotten calm recently out there toward parts of outside of Sarasota, that is due to the fact that you're actually in the center of the eye, and maybe it's the pressure that's dropping that's resulting in your ears popping a little bit. You feel it like you're going on a roller coaster as that pressure drops and things go calm toward the center of the eye. Radar picture here, flash flooding. That's another big concern. The heaviest of the rain. We anticipated this. We knew that heaviest of the rain was going to be from the center of the circulation north. As this system encountered a little bit more of that wind shear, it sort of sheared the southern half of that eye wall and lifted some of that heavier precipitation north. And this is where our more serious flash flood threat's going to be. We've already got flash flood warnings out for a whole host of counties, including from the Tampa metro back over toward Lakeland. Essentially put, we don't want you traveling, obviously, for any reason, for a multitude of reasons. The high winds, the flash flooding concern, and we've got some of that really heavy rainfall that's now beginning to pivot around the eye wall. So this is the western and northern eye wall that is making its way just over Tampa Bay, and that is where we're getting some high winds, but also extremely torrential rain. So we could be talking rainfall rates of 1 to 2, even up to 3 inches per hour that may continue to come down as this band is very slow in its movement. Now that we're seeing that forward motion that is slowed a little bit, that Milton has made landfall. So very heavy rainfall up the I-75 corridor all the way up to Interstate 4, and that rain then continues from Tampa eastbound on I-4 out toward Lakeland, where it is a torrential downpour that is occurring. I'm going to take you through this nice and slow. It's the hour-by-hour high-resolution forecast, and we're going to talk what's going to be unfolding really over the next couple of hours, because we're still in the thick of things, not only with the heavy rain, but also the high winds. So here's the back edge of that eye wall that's going to be coming onshore. Really in the next 60 minutes, we're going to have that full landfall pushing in. It is going to begin to weaken, so Milton will lose its energy once it's fully onshore. That circulation, though, is still going to bring heavy rain and lots of wind across the area. This will continue to move to the east. Here's the clock just after 11 o'clock. We're still going to be in that continuous coverage. Heavy rain is going to be pulling more inland, so that flash flooding threat, that is something that will continue all tonight and through into early tomorrow morning. It may not be till after about 2 to 4 a.m. that circulation makes it closer to about Orlando, and it will be completely out of the area, and things will be much calmer as we look into our Thursday morning. The tail end of Milton will be making its way far off the eastern seaboard, crossing the I-95 corridor. That's the latest over here in the Weather Center. We'll send it back over to the desk to you guys.
Chris, I have one question for you before we let you go, whether you or Bobby can maybe field this one. Are we still concerned about flooding with these rivers?
Yeah, rivers, that could still be 24 or 48 hours, perhaps even, days or longer, because once this water falls, it's got to go somewhere. There's areas that could see up to 12 to 18 inches of rain after this is all said and done. So flash flooding is the immediate concern. That's tonight into early tomorrow morning. River flooding, that's something that may take a few days to actually filter out.
All right, we want to take a look at power outages. Let's go live to Melissa Sasis, Duke Energy Florida president, on the phone with us. Melissa, are you able to hear us? You're with Dave Wagner and Courtney Robinson, 10 Tampa Bay.
I am. Good evening, gentlemen.
Yeah, good evening to you too, and we appreciate you being with us. But let me just ask you a first question. What kind of outages are you seeing? What kind of problems are being presented to you?
So right now we have about 275,000 customers off, and we have restored 62,000 across the 35 counties that we serve. For Pinellas County, It's about 190,000 of the 275 that I just mentioned, and we've been able to restore 32,000 so far through the weather.
Trying to reestablish with Melissa here. All right.
Okay, so our power just kind of went out here. Police Department. This is outside of the Bradenton Police Department. Bear with us, just like you were going through this, where the power comes, the power goes, and so we're trying to stay on here and make sure that you have the information that you need. This is Bradenton, and you can see that wind still pushing through, the rain coming with it as well outside of the Bradenton Police Department.
All right, let's take a look at the Hotel Floridian right here. This gives you kind of a sense as to what this looks like right here. You can tell this is looking east, we're told. So you see the cranes there, and the good news is 2 of the cranes are upright, so that's a good sign there that they have not had problems with those cranes right there. There has been a concern about that.
This is what you're looking at right here, I think, is downtown Tampa as well, that we were seeing earlier, and just maybe some video that we're rolling through right here as you were seeing just all of the rain coming down. This wind, as it really picks up, you're going to start to experience these power outages as well if you have not already experienced a power outage. Look at this right here. This is in Seminole Park Boulevard at Oakhurst, and you can see the signals right there just bouncing as the wind just really is relentless.
Yeah, here's another look downtown Tampa. Here's a live look, and this is what you would expect. This is a live shot with a CBS reporter there, kind of in the foreground, but we're taking that camera live right now. But you see strong wind and some of the vegetation there blowing in the wind, just what you would expect at this point of the hurricane.
And just trying to look and see, where are we looking, what are we seeing? Looks very different when we're looking at it.
Well, and I think people are, they're behind protected walls and that kind of thing at this point. But we'll try our best to get Melissa Sasas from Duke Energy, the Florida president. She was kind of explaining some of the outages there, and you can understand why, given the wind out there right now. Just a tremendous amount of wind that's causing problems. I'm kind of shocked that they have been able to restore power in the middle of this storm.
And what's also interesting right now, Dave, is that in these shots that we've taken, actually the power is on to some of these major, traffic signals and buildings that need the power. So that is a good thing to see right there. We do have Chris Hurst, who is live for us in Orlando, like so many of you. He evacuated that way. And Chris, I know you've talked with so many people. They want to know what's happened. What does it look like?
Yeah, and so many of them now are sort of glued to their radar as we finally have landfall in Siesta Key from Milton. We actually helped a couple of people download the 10 Tampa Bay Plus app so they could look at the radar right there on their phones. A lot of them crossing fingers, thinking that if they lived right along the coastline, in some areas that maybe the storm surge isn't going to be as high as they feared, and maybe the rainfall totals aren't going to be as high. But I got to tell you, we have some folks that might be heading to bed here at this hotel that are evacuees from Tampa Bay. We're at the DoubleTree in Orlando. This is kind of the trick time, right? Because you can see those bands still reform and be very thick. And we really don't know if Milton is going to slow any more than is already forecasted and maybe hover a little bit more than we anticipated. So while we're all breathing a sigh of relief, we cannot let our guard down on what we potentially could return to. But we are still out here in Orlando, in Orange County, where the winds have been gusty at times, and certainly Justin is going to try and zoom in on that stop sign. Signs like that are low on the ground, one of the things we look at to determine whether it's safe for us to be out there. A lot of times when the winds get up really, really high, 80, 90, 100 miles an hour, it's going to start to tear those signs like aluminum foil. But because they're holding up, we're not seeing really any branches on the ground right now where we are in Orange County. We think it's safe to be out here, but we just want to show you that the conditions still are pretty intense. Although I will say the winds, they look like they're really nasty, but the gusts really only into the 40s, maybe touching 50, but sustained winds in the 20s and 30s right now. So the other thing that a lot of people are looking at really is sort of how bifurcated the rain line is with this storm right now. Really, Mother Nature putting on quite the masterclass. It could be that the rain tapers off here in Orange County in the next couple of hours. It depends if the moisture still will push farther to the north and east, or will it start to clear out from the south and from the east. But right now, folks crossing fingers, holding their breath here while they are 100 miles away from their home, thinking that maybe they will have something to go back to when they return, when the sun comes up tomorrow and into Friday and into Saturday. Back to you, Dave.
All right, yeah, good point here. A lot of people losing internet, a lot of people losing various services right now. Melissa Sesas joins us right now. She is the president of Duke Energy Florida. Sorry we got cut off from you last time. We took a bit of a power hit ourselves here, but I was impressed when you were talking about restoring some of the electrical power in the area. How do you do that in the middle of a storm? How complicated is that as the storm is ongoing?
So of the 275,000 customers that have been off since the beginning of the storm and the 62,000 that are restored, most of those are restored automatically to our self-healing grid because once the winds are above 39 miles per hour, we're unable to send crews out, especially in bucket trucks. But the investment through our storm protection plan and hardening the grid allows us to install technology to automatically reroute power.
So sorry to interrupt you, Melissa. We're having some trouble hearing you. We have a bad connection. We realize a lot of people are having trouble connecting with each other right now. We're just among those. So we apologize. It's happened a couple of times. We'll try our best to get the information and bring it to you.
Where do you guys want to go? What do we have here?
I can take it. Got some weather to talk about, that's for sure.
All right, Bobby says he has some weather that he wants to talk about. I want to show some video earlier because one thing that Bobby has talked a lot about during this is the tornadoes, and we have some video from Fort Myers from earlier as we saw. Okay, Bobby.
All right. Well, I'll take it.
Thank
Here
you.
we go. Some good news here. This stretch of water right here, of rain, I should say, is actually getting a little bit better. It's getting smaller, and that is the key because the smaller that gets, the less wind we're going to get as we go through the overnight hours in that area. Lost my TV over here. That's okay. So if I put this into motion, watch how that gets smaller. You see that? See how that's getting smaller right there? That's the highest wind. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not still seeing high winds. Let me go around and query some of this. Look at this area in Duet, northwestern parts of Hardy County. That's an estimate of 94 mile per hour winds off the surface. But that's 70, 80 mile per hour winds possible on the ground, all right? And in Bradenton right now, I think, I'll zoom in, but I mean AMI, there has to be damage being blown into the Gulf of Mexico from Anna Maria Island. Let me clear this out. You can see 60 mile per hour does. Let's go down to AMI, and here's the good news. The winds in the Anna Maria Island area are starting to finally come down. There it is right there, all right? And we put this into motion, and you can watch the brown area come through there. I didn't go back far enough here. Let's go back for the last, let's go 2 hours, because you're still going to be able to see it coming through. Look at the wind that they have dealt with over the past 2 hours. That is, well, gust to 100 right here at Egmont Key, right? So I'm sure they've seen that as well. Certainly gusts in the 90s. From the northeast back down towards the southwest. So that's the back of the island. And we've seen about a foot and a half drop in the tide levels coming out of the bay. So that's a bulge of water coming down here and getting into basically behind the island, going all the way behind Longboat Key. That wind is starting to come down a little bit. So you can see as it pushes out, as this brown pushes out here over towards Memphis and Bradenton, Gillette, Palmetto, that the winds will be coming down for Anna Maria Island as well too, finally. But that's going to have done a little bit of damage. So things are starting now to get a little bit better. And obviously because of that, it looks like Pinellas County will be seeing the same, although we still have some really good wind gusts there. It is getting just a little bit less than what it has. My kind of rule of thumb now at this, I'm telling my friends and family, is after 11 p.m., we'll really start to see things slowly come down. I think right now some of the worst that we're going to see as far as the wind goes. We're going to keep some rain, but we're going to get rid of at least some of the wind gradually over the next couple of hours. So let me put this in and we'll kind of go up here a little bit. And now this is just estimated winds, right? Estimated winds from the radar here. And you can see 50s to 60s, northwest Hillsborough. Let's get out towards the Dunedin area. You're talking about 50s and 60s as well. Generally, you know, the further northeast you go, we get a little less wind. But Dade City, Zephyr Hills area, we've got some pretty good winds out here as well too. 40s, 50s. We'll have gusts in the 60s. We've got 63 is at least a possibility out there near Zephyr Hills. And again, this is all going to continue to push off towards the east-northeast and bring in those heavier rain showers with it. So right now, the heaviest rain is in there in central parts of Hillsborough County. I mean, downtown Tampa, certainly Davis Islands, but look just to the east. We're talking out towards Ybor City and essentially basically out through Brandon and Plant City. I mean, Plant City, we're just getting nailed with the rain right now, and that will continue. And that's going to put around 3-4 inches of rain on top of what you've already seen. So far in that area, we've seen, let's say about 7-8 inches. Just add another 2 to 3, maybe 4, probably 3 on top of that. That's going to get you up almost to 10, 11 inches of rainfall so far. Obviously, we've had more. You get back out here towards Pinellas County where we're looking at a foot of rain, Pinellas Park, Largo area already. That's why all that water's out there. It's not surge, it's actually rainfall that's causing flooding here. Kind of expected that to be the case anyways. The bigger picture, you can see where all that rain's been. And if you remember back where the models were, I mean, they did a really good job of saying wherever that center goes and to the north of it is where we get most of the rain, and that's exactly what we've been seeing. So this all continues to move off towards the east and the northeast. Winds obviously are coming down on the system because it's moved on shore, but that's going to be a very slow process. So areas like central and eastern Manatee County, eastern Hillsborough, western, well, most of Polk County and Hardy County, still looking at some decent winds. I mean, we've got 115 mile per hour winds near the center of this thing right now. And that's actually over the north-northwest side where Anna Maria was, where Bradenton is. It's moving to the east-northeast at 15 miles per hour, and the pressure's coming up. If you're in Manatee County, well, especially Sarasota and over into Hardy County, you're going to notice those pressures dropping. People in Sarasota already have. That's happening now in Hardy and DeSoto counties. Your ears will pop just a little bit. It's now 5 miles north of Sarasota, Florida. So the center's kind of jogged around here just a little bit. Track, if that makes a difference at this point, which really not too much. You can see it's going to push across the state over towards the Space Coast. It's going to be really close to getting over there, right over Cape Canaveral. But keeping basically hurricane force winds, anything over 74 miles per hour is hurricane force winds. And they're thinking there's going to be at least a small area in there before it gets over there that's going to have some winds that are just like that. Landfall was earlier, 8:30 this morning. Notice, or this evening, excuse me. Notice the sound side here, the bottom, the south side, doesn't have as much rain, and that will continue. In fact, we're going to see the dry air continue to kind of move in on this, and that's helping knock down some of it. It's weakening the system, but it's also weakening because it's over land, but there's also wind shear up above it. So we've had a couple different things going on.
Do you have an update?
Yeah.
That is a flash flood emergency now.
Uh-oh.
That is for central Hillsborough County, northern Manatee County, and southeastern Pinellas County.
Yeah.
This flash flood emergency indicates that we've already had 10 to 14 inches of rain and additional rain that's going to come down. It's that band, it's that outer band that's just setting up shop right now. It's not moving. So flash flood emergency. There's some areas that have already seen over a foot of rain, and it could last another couple hours.
So it's this area right here, and we've tracked most of that for you anyways, but that is going to slowly push off towards the east, but again, another 3 to 4 inches easily on top of it. And what's happening is like, yeah, you get a ton of rain. I mean, 10, 12 inches of rainfall, but this is happening in the span of about an hour and a half. And that is a lot of rain in that amount of time. I mean, not all 12 inches of it, but about 4 to 6 inches in about an hour and a half. And that's a lot of rain, okay? And that will continue to push off. Now, what that emergency means is that water levels can come up quick. We're not talking just in rivers. We're talking in neighborhoods. We're talking on the roads. We're talking in those low spots. And I mean, it happens. Somebody builds a neighborhood here and it floods the areas around it. That type of thing will be happening in central and eastern Hillsborough County for the next hour and a half to 2 hours, okay? Because this is going to take its time. Even behind it, we have rain that has to fall. This is just the heavy stuff that you can see right there.
Bobby, I was going to say, some people can't see you, so they're wondering, and you just said central, eastern Hillsborough County. That is where we're talking about that
they're
flash.
Listening? Yep,
they're listening to you.
Yep, so central and eastern Hillsborough County, so Brandon, Plant City, down to Ruskin, Apollo Beach, those areas are in the emergency flood right now, okay? Flood warning for an emergency, and then basically quickly rising waters, and not just at the coast. This is not anything to do with that. This is in your neighborhood, if you live in that area, that you can get it. So look, if you're in the house, you should be anyways. The good news about all of this is that most folks have been hunkered down, and that's the place to be. Keep in mind, if you live in Lakeland and down into Bartow, in Fishhawk, if you know you live in an area that floods really bad with heavy rainfall, I would get out of there now if you can. If you've got a neighbor's house, something you can go to, because this heavy rain is coming in your direction too. All right, guys?
I'm not saying get out and drive. We're saying just go
Yeah,
next.
no. You don't want to go
Yep.
anywhere. You just want to get out of that. If your neighbor's higher ground over there,
yep.
you want to do that.
Bobby, I can add something to this as well. The reason that this flash flood emergency was issued is the National Weather Service is saying that the amount of rain that is falling right now has a 1 in 500 year interval for reoccurrence. So 1 in 500 years. So they've said this certainly does warrant the fact that they've issued that flash flood emergency. So it is a very rare event that has occurred right now. And that flash flood, as Bobby said, this is an area that maybe hasn't been accustomed to seeing rainfall like this. It is all coming down so quickly. Much of this rain is coming down 2, 3, 4 inches per hour. It is an outer tropical rain band. So here it is, that rain band that is coming right over the Bay Area. So from St. Petersburg up into Tampa, and this is just parked here. This isn't going to be moving anywhere anytime soon. Just about 20 to 30 minutes ago, we went through that hour-by-hour forecast. This could be around for another couple of hours. We're seeing that heavy rainfall that is occurring. The intensity of that rainfall, perhaps rainfall you haven't seen like that hard in quite some time. So flash flood warning, that is an emergency that was issued. That will be out there for about another 2 hours as we get that outer band, so to speak, of Milton that is really going to be moving through. You can see that pivot point as well. So there's our circulation. We've got landfall. That occurred at 8:30. That occurred just over Siesta Key, and that continues to move inland. But the problem is, and Bobby mentioned it as well, the southern edge of this system, the southern edge of this tropical system, that was sheared off, but it was really transported to the northern side of that circulation. So that's essentially what happened here. It was sheared off with that wind shear, which was part of the process that actually weakened Milton to begin with as it made its landfall, but it's transported a lot of that tropical moisture right over the Tampa Bay area. And that's going to continue too. If I could give you a heads up as well, we're probably not going to see the last of this. This is likely to continue down the I-4 corridor as well, so over toward Lakeland and north of I-4, we're getting really heavy rainfall rates. Those estimates so far, and again, it puts us, we're going to be way beyond that scale there. We're going to be in excess of 12 to 14, even up to 16 inches of rain. Some of that really heavy rainfall down toward Pinellas Park. This is areas that have potentially seen a little bit of storm surge. Now they're getting about a foot of rainfall on top of what they saw with a little bit of storm surge earlier in the day. So we had mentioned that it was a good news type of scenario that as far as storm surge, the winds had sucked the water out of the bay. Well, what's coming from the sky is just as much of an issue because of flash flooding. It's going to be for areas that may be well inland and not accustomed to that. I did get some reports of storm surge, though, that were fairly minor compared to what occurred down towards Sarasota and areas and points to the south. So that's the latest on what we have with that one. But do need to treat that flash flood emergency with some serious tone, and I do expect that may not be done with it at this point. We could have additional flash flood emergencies still yet.
So much water with very little place to go right now, and that's kind of overpowering the system. Let's check in with Emerald Morris. She's down in Bradenton right now. Emerald, what are you seeing down that way?
Listen, Dave, let me tell you, this wind is nothing to play with. Okay, so we're in the hallway right now. We're just going to turn the camera around. We are not going outside, because when we were kind of standing just over here, we have some hurricane watchers, some brave people who are going out there. I'm not setting foot out there, but we saw branches snapping, and I mean the wind would come through and whip, and you just heard a big crackle, and that's all I needed. That's all I needed, and I don't need to be out there. I don't need to play around with this at all. But you can seriously see just how strong the wind is. You can see how the bands and how everything is just kind of whipping through. So it just kind of brings it home how serious this storm is, something that we have not seen anybody in this area pretty much has seen in their lifetime. So we're just going to let you take a look at how the winds are whipping through and just blowing through the trees here, in some cases blowing some of them down. Like I said, we got a couple of brave people, some people you might remember that we spoke to before. We got Freddie back here. Freddie, what made you come back out and want to check this out and even set foot out there?
Oh, I think it's very, oh sorry, it's really interesting seeing how the hurricane is just, it's crazy. I don't know, it's very, we're okay.
Yes, we're okay, thank you.
We're okay.
Thank you.
No, it's, I can't come up with the word now, but it's just fascinating to see how like strong the winds are and the power of this hurricane, and we're not even in the middle of it, or I don't think so at least.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So yeah, it's I don't know, it's a little scary, but it's cool. I got to witness it.
Yeah, I will say it's scary. Look, I'm not playing around. I'm not trying to be out there. That is scary. That is nothing to play with. So when everybody was saying this is not the storm that you want to ride out, what we saw out there is absolutely the reason why you wanted to listen to that. So very serious, you know, even though the storm has made landfall, obviously we are still seeing the impacts, the back end of that storm. Nothing to play with. We want everybody out there to be safe. Sending it back to you guys.
Yeah, I think we are all sort of impressed by the power of Mother Nature. Remind me, where did Freddie evacuate from?
So Freddie evacuated from Anna Maria Island, but you're actually from Sweden, though.
Yeah, so my parents own a condo out on the island, so I decided to go here for a little sunny vacation, I thought, but...
So a little different than a sunny vacation, though, huh?
A little different, but it's, I mean, we've... the communities had come together after Helene a lot, and just helping clean out the houses and all that. And I think depending on how much damage this does, it's probably more. I think the communities are going to come together and help again.
Yeah, they absolutely will. We've already seen that, as you mentioned, and hopefully, I know, I'm not going to say hopefully, I know we will see that again once this storm passes. But tell me, as you're seeing this, I know when we talked before, you were just kind of cool as a cucumber like your dad here, but how are you feeling now emotionally when you think about going back to your condo?
It's going to be sad, of course, and I think hopefully our condo is going to be okay, I think, because it's up on the second floor and all that, but it's going to be devastating to go out on the island and just see all the damage that it's done to a lot of the houses that are underground. Some of them are probably just going to be gone, so it's going to be sad going out there for sure. And even though it's very interesting and fascinating seeing it, it's you can't forget about all the people that get really affected by it too, you know.
Absolutely.
And the people that are right in the storm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Freddie, for taking some time to talk with us about this very serious storm. I know a lot of people are intrigued and fascinated and want to see what's going on, but it's something that you cannot play with. You got to be safe.
Yeah, we really do appreciate his perspective there. It's helpful and gives us kind of a sense of where people's minds are right now.
Well, we're approaching 10 o'clock. Hurricane Milton made landfall as a Category 3 on Siesta Key. You're watching 10 Tampa Bay as we continue our coverage of Hurricane Milton. I'm Courtney Robinson along with Dave Wagner. And it is impressive to see what Mother Nature continues to do here in our area. And you just think about everyone with the surge in Southwest Florida.
Here's 3 important things to know right now. Milton made landfall over Siesta Key. That was at 8:30 this evening. Category 3 storm. 1 million customers without power across the state of Florida right now. They're working hard to restore them. We just talked to Melissa Sasis with President of Duke Energy Florida. They've already been able to restore power in some areas because they have kind of these self-healing kind of power. So that's been great. The Northeast and Southwest sewer plants in St. Pete are shut down right now. They did that proactively so there was not saltwater incursion into them. That'll take them a while once this storm passes to get them back online. In the meantime, you're not supposed to flush your toilets, otherwise sewage could come up into your house, and nobody wants that.
And with this wind, we do see power outages rising. Duke Energy has more than 300,000 customers without power. FPL, more than 500,000. And TECO, almost 200,000 customers. And they are working to restore that, but there's only so much that you can do with the wind gusts that we're seeing right now. So they're working very quickly to do that. We are here off of Hillsborough Avenue, and you can see out onto Hillsborough Avenue kind of the wind that is coming through again in Tampa, just blowing, and all the rain as well. People still driving.
We want to go to St. Petersburg, where we've been keeping an eye both outside and inside. Luke Clary has been at a hotel station, He was out on the pier earlier where it was really rough out there. Now he's been inside a hotel in downtown St. Pete, keeping an eye on things for us, talking to people who've evacuated. Okay, he stepped back outside. Let's check in with Luke. Are you able to hear us, Luke? Okay, he stepped outside, so that means he's not available to us. Let's take a live look if we can right now, and hopefully give you a better picture of what it looks like on the outside.
At Oldsmar.
Yep.
Oh, no, excuse me. Sorry, Tampa Road at Pine Avenue in Oldsmar. And this is what's happening right now. Again, this is kind of going to keep coming through for the next few hours as it pushes inland, making its way across the state of Florida. We do have Luke Clary. He has a little more from us from St. Petersburg.
We're standing just outside of our hotel in downtown St. Pete. We wanted to show you just how powerful the winds are blowing here. Take a look. Now, this is the intersection of 4th Street and 3rd Avenue, and you can see the rain just coming down in sheets. The wind just coming through here, blowing debris around. You might be able to make out over there. You see the water running through the gutter and a bit of tree debris that's sitting there. And we haven't seen much in the way of it flying around, but when the gusts come through here, as they are right now, it's not hard to see why people are so concerned about all of the debris left over from Hurricane Helene that crews did not have a chance to clean up before this storm came in. So once again, as we see some of the water pooling in the gutters, some of these gutters are clogged right now with tree debris, branches, and leaves. That could be a concern. We're about a block, 2 blocks from any of the mandatory evacuation zones, and we're about 40 feet above sea level here, so flooding is not a significant concern. We may be out of harm's way in terms of that storm surge, but as you can clearly see, the driving rain and those whipping winds remain a significant concern and a serious hazard from where we stand in downtown St. Pete. Luke Clary, 10 Tampa Bay.
All right, Luke, thanks a lot. We want to take you live right now to Alternate 19 and Curlew Road to give you a sense as to what it is like in this area right now. So this is the same area where they had some of those evacuations up in Dunedin here. This is the look at it right now. It's not so much the rising water as it was during Hurricane Helene. It's the wind and the rain just blowing sheets of rain down the street there.
I was talking to a friend, just checking in on people, making sure, that they're listening and they've lost power here and there. And, some have said, this really makes them nervous. They've not really been nervous before, but the wind, they can feel right now in their homes, that storm-rated homes and whatnot, they can still feel it. It makes them, and you can see outside what is happening, and this is why.
I mean, I think we were all a little nervous in advance of this storm, and I think those kind of the nerves continue until this storm is over, in part because we've never been through anything like this in a long time, and it was kind of hard for us to imagine what life might be like on the back end and what it might be like in the middle of the storm. So I think we're all sort of going through uncharted territory here right now.
And you know, I want you to understand at home too. We have crews that are in all of these different communities.
There's something going down the street right there. See it?
What is that?
Some debris, something. Okay.
I don't know what
something
that is.
blowing down the street. All right, we should go over to Colleen, though. She has an update for us. Colleen?
Yeah, Dave and Courtney, everybody at home. So you just saw that camera there, something blowing down the street there. We've had 80, 90, 100 mile per hour wind gusts, and those winds are just traveling more inland as Milton continues to move here. As the main concern right now is the heavy rain that we have, as well as the strong wind. And it looks like my microphone is going off, so I'm going to.
With your mic, we're going to fix your mic.
Okay.
And then we'll go back to you here because we want people to hear the important information that you're sharing. But we want to go to Hannah Deneen. 10 Tampa Bay's Hannah Deneen is in Hernando County right now. Been keeping an eye on things there for us. Hannah, what are you seeing?
Hey, Dave, we are outside our hotel in Brooksville, where the power here has been flickering periodically at our hotel, all the street lights, and it's clear to see why. The strong, powerful wind and the rain tonight. If we can look up at this street light here, which is fortunately still on for the moment, you can see how fast that powerful wind is pushing the rain through. Shortly ago, I was speaking with Sheriff Al Nienhuis, who says right now they're getting reports of power lines in the roads, trees in the roadway, emphasizing that is all the more reason for people to, at this point, be hunkering down. It is not safe for you to be outside of your safe spot right now. He is also urging people not just to stay put tonight, stay off the roads tonight, but also tomorrow as well, for as long as possible, to help them have the time to clean up properly.
The ground is wet. It's been raining all day, which means it's very easy for those trees to come down, and then we have a large gust of wind, and that tree can come down at any moment. Unfortunately, oftentimes it'll take power lines down with it. It's probably going to take a while until this storm subsides, makes landfall, and moves on before we can really assess the damage and address some of those bigger issues.
And I want to just take you out behind me just once again, Noel, if you can show them what we're seeing right now. This is the most powerful wind that we've seen so far tonight. Truly just incredible to see how quickly this water is blowing through this parking lot right now. And because of the strong winds right now, across Hernando County, across Pasco County, just south of us as well, they have suspended emergency operations where they're not sending out first responders right now because it's simply not safe for them to be responding to those routine calls. So if you do call 911 right now, they say they will not be able to send anyone out to you. However, they still want you to call so that they know what's going on, so that they can get out there and respond to you as quickly as possible. In Brooksville, Hannah Deneen, 10 Tampa Bay.
Hannah, thank you very much. I can't help but notice the electric vehicles that are behind her, and glad to see that people had, you know, take them with you when they evacuated. Colleen Campbell is here with us now. Colleen, we got your mic fixed, and you were talking about the wind speeds.
Yes. So the wind speeds are very important, as well as the heavy rain. That's our main concern right now. We have that flash flood emergency for some of our counties that we're going to get to. But here's Hurricane Milton. Yes, still hurricane made landfall around 8:30 in Siesta Key. So continues to move inland, going to impact coast from coast. We've been saying that from the beginning. Let's take a zoom in here so you can see the reflectivity there. That heavy rain moving through portions of 275. But we're having issues with your microphone again. Apologies. Let's give you a live look right now at Olmerton Road at Seminole Boulevard, if that's where we can go right now. And you could really just kind of underscore again the wind that Colleen is talking about, you know, 82 in Tampa, 90, I think, at Albert Whitted.
Right. Yeah, and it varies from place to place, of course, but strong wind gusts, some very strong sustained winds out there as well. And when we go to Tampa, take a look at some of the high winds down there. We're also seeing, you know, again, it's sort of at times it's relatively calm.
Oh, look at it.
And at times, you know, it's not. I mean, it's not what we saw in Hernando County, but you know, strong winds there as well. In some places, we've seen streetlights moving. In other places, we see these signs really kind of jamming in the wind there.
And we have high winds as well from Ybor City. You know, we saw so many of those businesses boarded up, and you can see right here, you know, hotel pool and all of that just coming off the roof of the hotel with their palm trees too, bending. That's one thing to keep in mind too, as you may be going to bed and then tomorrow waking up to look at what the damage. You want to make sure that you don't walk under these trees. Or near these trees, right? Because they've been weakened and the ground is saturated and they can come down even if they aren't down already.
Yeah, power lines as well, so be very careful of those because you don't know which ones are hot there. So let's take a look at St. Pete if we can too. A lot of people evacuated parking garages. Some people are seeking protection in parking garages right now, but you look at the danger and these signs just kind of whipping around there, and this is why they don't want you out there, because things like this, you know, this sign could easily just fly through the air. You hear it smacking the ceiling there, but a lot of cars are parked in there right now. I would say that red one right there is in a little peril. Hopefully it's doing okay. But this is the mess that this hurricane causes. And you just don't want to be the recipient of a piece of metal out there, a piece of debris.
And Bobby, I know we've talked about before with the underpasses not being safe. I kind of look at this and think, you know, yes, you've taken cover, but the way that the wind works and just picks things up, not necessarily the safest. We have a live look at US 19 at Olmerton Road that we want to give you right now. Again, coming up on 10 o'clock here on this Wednesday?
It's a Wednesday. Yeah, I know,
Wednesday.
it's long days and nights.
And, you know, again, just the wind is so punishing.
It really is. Yeah, it's punishing for a lot of people, and a lot of folks, you know, to our south are really hurting right now. It depends on how far you go south. And we go down to Fort Myers, for example. Take a live look right there, if we can, at Fort Myers. And what's interesting about that right now, it is relative, and we say that relatively calm, which is really a good thing as we continue to look at Olmerton Road here. But the folks down at Fort Myers have had such a difficult time down that way, and I guess
this is downtown
Fort Myers, yeah.
Yep, downtown, looking at that convention area where they kind of rebuilt the marina and whatnot. And this was an area, Dave and I were down there shortly after Hurricane Ian. We both have dear friends and good family members who are down there, good family members.
Yeah, family members are all good.
They're all good.
Yeah.
No, but they, you know, just really suffered so much. I mean, homes and for a long time.
And they're still trying to recover. I mean, it's not like it was a, you know, they just rebuilt
but you can see all that
right
water
away.
that flooded.
Oh yeah, it's really difficult. But this is kind of terrifying for them as that storm began to go a little farther south of us here. A lot of folks down there were so nervous that they were going to get hit by this. In terms of storm surge down there, Bobby or Colleen, what did they see in the Fort Myers area?
Storm. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're pushing 8 to 9 foot.
Oh, wow.
We've seen 9 foot on the backside of Longboat Key up against the mainland side.
How much did they get during Helene? I'm just, if you have.
Similar to that.
Similar. And that, we know during Helene, that really caused a lot of damage, especially, you know, seeing Sanibel, Captiva, all of those businesses that just kind of reopened and making new memories. And Helene caused quite a bit of damage, so here we are again.
Before we get over to Colleen, I wanted to mention this. Before, on the east end of the eye, as it was making landfall in the Sarasota area, we had wind gusts in Sarasota 93 miles per hour. The eye went over it, and so it was calm as the eye went over. On the backside, we've just had 102 mile per hour wind gusts in Sarasota. That's at the airport, Sarasota Bradenton. That's the highest they've seen since at least 1975. Wow. And when Ian came through, they had an 82 mile per hour wind gust. That was their highest gust.
Wow, so that beat that.
Beat that.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, Colleen, you're keeping an eye on things. I think keeping our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
The third time is a charm, Colleen.
Yeah, my mic just doesn't want to cooperate. I think that's pretty much done. So
just keep talking. Let's see.
All right. I'm just going to keep talking and see how it goes. So is it?
No, I'm just messing with you. It's fine.
Bobby's scaring me. All right.
She's got to do the microphone trick at this time.
Yeah, so my mic does not want to behave. So we were just talking about Fort Myers and the surge, and I took this a little bit earlier tonight, so I'm assuming that the levels are much higher, but they were already in that moderate flood stage, almost 3.5 feet above normal levels. But again, I took this about an hour ago, so yeah, much higher there. We just saw the images ourselves. As far as the winds, you notice the winds up here, 110 miles per hour. So yeah, we were just talking about that 102 mile per hour gust, which I believe Bobby said that was in Sarasota, correct?
Yep.
So yeah, we still have this, although this storm did come on shore and make landfall, it's still moving from coast to coast. And that's what I was starting to say before my microphone went out. This will be a coast to coast impact storm. And we've been saying that since the beginning. So take a zoom in here. We see Hillsborough County really getting massive amounts of rain and these tropical downpours that are not helping the situation. And that's why we have that flash flood emergency for portions of the area, which I am going to get to. I've been clicking around to give you an idea of how much rain is coming down in just an hour time. And I think some of these amounts are actually higher than what's being displayed here. Actually, there it goes. It just jumped up to almost 2 inches of precip in an hour being dumped. And I think some amounts are even higher than that. So if you just look outside, well, we don't want you to look outside, but just take our word for it. Rainfall estimates, you can see we had anywhere from 10 to 14 inches highlighted in that yellow color there. And the reason why they did issue that flash flood emergency is because over by Albert Whitted, they had 16 inches of rainfall, I believe, that was recorded. So that's when they said, okay, we are going to issue this flash flood emergency. So that goes until about 2:30 a.m., the flash flood warning that covers Hillsborough, Manatee, and Pinellas County, but they did put that extra tag on it saying that this is an emergency and you need to make sure you are at higher grounds, which you should be anyway if you did evacuate. Out of most of those zones, A, B, and C was covered under the surge anyway, but if you are a little bit inland and you're close to a body of water that typically floods, I would be aware. So there's that reading. 16 inches of rain at Albert Whitted Airport. And then that's when they went ahead and issued that flash flood emergency. And that, again, covers really the central parts of Hillsborough County, Manatee, and Pinellas County, covering all of those areas. So again, going into the flash flood warning, we have a flash flood warning that covers a number of counties that's not in that emergency technically, but I wouldn't be surprised if we got some expansion on that. So Hillsborough, Pasco, Polk, and Sumter also under that flash flood warning, until 1 a.m. The emergency is for portions of Hillsborough County. Okay, going into some storm reports here, we are starting to see more and more reports pop on the board. A lot of these either have to do with surge or wind, and then of course out to the east and down to the south around Fort Myers, Southwest Florida, and out to the East Coast here, plenty of confirmed tornadoes. We saw that ourselves earlier this afternoon with those big tornadoes that we witnessed through video or photo, and I'm sure we will get a lot more of that tomorrow when the storm passes and everybody starts trying to get their lives back to normal here. But a recap on Hurricane Milton, it did make landfall in Siesta Key around 8:30 this evening as a Category 3 hurricane. The winds at that time were 120 miles per hour, and the winds did weaken slightly, but we are still getting massive gust reports here, and we are expecting those gusts to travel with Milton as the towns that are closest to those outer bands, that outer wall. That's where the high wind is. That's what we say. Around the eye, that's where the biggest impact is. It's not so much in the center, it's around that eye wall. That's where you get those high winds. That's where you get those bands of wrapping rain where we just have a lot of rain dumped in an area. And it's just lingering on top of us right now here in Hillsborough and Pinellas County. So some high wind reports. Again, I updated this at 9 p.m. We've had reports even stronger than this, 102 in Sarasota. Egmont Channel, 100 mile per hour gusts. Albert Whitted, 90 miles per hour. Would not be surprised if they had something higher than that. And we know Sarasota and Bradenton, they had that 102. Currently, we have gusts. And again, some of these readings may be off because some of those sites are being rocked around right now. But we are getting readings in Tampa and St. Pete at 84 mile per hour sustained winds, gusts. The extreme wind warning did expire on time at 9:30, so we are no longer under that. So that's some good news, but I still would be aware of that flash flood threat, flash flood warning. And these winds, again, are nothing to mess with. They just dropped below that criteria of 115 miles per hour, but still, gusts 100 mile per hour winds, that's nothing to mess with. And we will continue to track Milton as the night goes on.
Well, we're keeping an eye on that, and Miguel's keeping an eye on Lakeland right now for us. Miguel, what do you have there?
Well, Dave, I can certainly tell you, we know that Milton has since made landfall here in Florida, but the conditions here in Polk County only continue to deteriorate with those strong winds and heavy bands of rain here as well. I'm going to have our photographer, Bob, just kind of pan over outside of our hotel here. It's a glimpse of how strong the winds are right now. And right now, of course, the county says this is not the time for you to drive around, take up some of the impact, because we're seeing a number of tree branches being flown around here as well. The wind has gotten significantly stronger throughout the last couple hours or so. And as Colleen had mentioned there's also the threat of flash flooding here in Polk County throughout the morning as Hurricane Milton continues to cut across the state and bring some of those damaging winds that could impact some of our homes and, of course, bring some flooding in some of those streets. Now, at this hotel, we do have a number of people who evacuated from Pinellas and Hillsborough County, some areas more in the coastal areas, and they felt it was safer to get to higher ground here in Lakeland as well. We spoke with one woman who realized that this was a threat to her. She made the last-minute decision to come to the hotel and evacuate, knowing that the wind could significantly damage her home. Take a listen there.
And so we had to run. We had to pack our bags immediately. It was like 6 a.m. in the morning, and we immediately took everything out. We even closed the closet. We took our cabinets and we pushed them in the closet. It was crazy this morning.
Yeah, so a number of people here who took those warnings, those evacuation orders in other areas more seriously. They wanted to make that change last minute to make sure they and their family members were safe. And of course, here in Polk County, we're still continuing to see those conditions deteriorate. That woman we actually heard from there, she's experienced hurricanes before. She was in Puerto Rico during the time of Hurricane Maria. She said she was out of power for about 6 months. And speaking of power, that's a concern here in Polk County. Because of those strong winds, they are anticipating parts of the county to lose power, so that's something that they say you should anticipate. But on top of that, some of those roads are just impassable. Right now, Polk County Sheriff's Office updated some of those roads from the Peace River Bridge, parts of Mulberry, and also here in Lakeland as well. So conditions are just continuing to deteriorate here as the storm continues to cut across the state, bringing with it heavy winds and heavy bands of rain here as well. Dave and Courtney.
All right, I know you're trying hard to keep that hat on out there, but let me just ask you, Miguel, some folks are having staying inside, hunkering down as they should, but give people an idea what that feels like to have that kind of pounding rain. I think it feels almost like little needles hitting your face. It's just so powerful and strong. Give us an idea of that sensation out there.
Well, David, I'll let you know I'm actually underneath an awning partially here, but the wind has been kind of whipping across to the side here. Definitely not the ideal driving conditions to be outside right now. And on top of that rain, I've been mentioning here, flooding in some of those roads that are just completely impassable. So certainly not comfortable, but something we're also concerned about, seeing some of those tree branches and potentially debris flying around. So these are just not ideal conditions to drive around in. We know that Hurricane Milton has since made landfall, but again, the conditions are only going to continue to get worse with those flash flooding concerns as it continues to cut across the state. And that's why the county says right now is the time to just hunker down, shelter in place. It's certainly not comfortable being out here being hit by those rain bands, that wind as well, but it's just a glimpse of why you need to stay home and shelter in place and ride out this storm, because again, when you wake up when it's daylight outside, Dave, some of these roads are still going to be impassable potentially, and there's still kind of concerns with down power lines, which we have heard reports of here throughout the day here as well in Polk County. So not comfortable, not an ideal situation to be in. Just stay home and shelter in place.
Miguel, I've been talking with one of our viewers here, and sheltering in place, but things are deteriorating there. Are first responders still out responding to calls in case somebody does have an emergency and they need to be transported?
Courtney, I can tell you the EOC has been fully activated here in Polk County, but at this moment, we're still waiting to get word on what those responses might look like. But they did warn people there will come a point where it might be difficult for people to reach you if you have not sought higher ground. Here in Polk County, we don't necessarily have mandatory evacuation orders. We have those more in the coastal areas, but they have been warning people for days We have at least 19 shelters open. At last check, that number of people who have checked into those evacuation shelters have since quadrupled to more than 5,000 people. So they were really hoping people were taking those warnings, taking the threat of this storm seriously. At this point, perhaps there might be first responders still out there helping other people out. But when these conditions are deteriorating and it puts the lives of those first responders at risk, it certainly is more difficult for them. But at this point, we haven't heard any word of first responders delaying any calls that people might have when it comes to people in need of support in those more vulnerable areas. But certainly that is why they've been stressing for people, we need you to hunker down and shelter in place, especially before the brunt of the storm hits. And right now, just here, the brunt of the storm, at least in Polk County, getting much worse with these winds and those bands of rain here as well.
Yeah, I know it's a losing cause with those hats too, Miguel. Thanks very much. We'll talk to you soon here. Let's take a look at Largo right now, what it looks over there. Well, we certainly see rain, and we see what appears to be, is that something in the middle of the road, a piece of debris, a light or something like that?
Trees, vegetation.
Okay, I'm looking right in the middle of the road here, but I wasn't quite sure what
I think
that
that's
was.
just the side of the corner,
Okay.
maybe, and
It might
then
be.
the roadway, just so much water.
Yeah.
It's really, really difficult.
Right. Yeah, it's tough to see at night, and we'll see it in the light of day, but this is it. Right there at West Bay Drive and 20th Street Northwest in Largo.
Let's go right now live to Angelina Salcido, who is live in Ybor City for us. And Angelina, we saw some video, I think probably from your hotel, of the pool and all the wind just really whipping through there. What are things like right now in Ybor?
Well, Courtney and Dave, the reason why we're actually inside of the hotel is because of how quickly the winds are coming through here, how strong they are, and the rain as well. So yes, you did see the video of that pool. That pool is actually right outside here. Now, we're not going to keep the door open for too long. We'll actually close it and have you guys take a look at the video that we shot a little bit earlier. Those winds that we shot a little earlier were actually stronger than what we're currently seeing and feeling right now. A lot of people have been coming down from their rooms, kind of just like peeking out to see, but you can even feel and hear the wind howling in this area. Now, inside of the hotel, I can tell you that they're dealing with quite a few different things. So if you take a look to my right, you're going to be able to see that we have some puddling on the ground. They have been right near the windows trying to pick up the water. They do have 10 Tampa Bay up, by the way, so that way they can be in the know and stay informed, prepared, and connected. I want to introduce you to Crystal. Crystal is actually the manager of the hotel. You were telling me that this is something like you have never experienced before, and you were born and raised here.
Absolutely, born and raised, and never been one to evacuate during a storm, and this is definitely something that I've personally never experienced before.
Talk to me about what the hotel is currently dealing with right now. What have you seen, and how has it changed over the last few hours?
Sure, so first and foremost, the safety of the guest and the staff that is here with the guest is our utmost priority. We are experiencing some water intrusion with the high winds that are happening, as well as the large amounts of rain that are being dropped on us. But outside of that, the building is secure, everybody is safe, and morale is good.
Talk to me about how important it is to keep people's spirits up, because I know that so many of them have evacuated to come here to be in a safe place during the storm.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have several people here that evacuated during Helene that came back because of the experience that they had during that evacuation. They felt very safe here. They have our cell phone numbers. They know what guest room I'm in personally. I have guests knocking on my door if they need anything. The most important thing is to keep everybody well informed. We've been having meetings with the guests several times during the day, keeping them updated, and just letting them know that we are here with them and we are here for them.
Do you feel like that speaks to, it's one of the things that I tweeted out, mainly because I saw your guys' sign when we walked in. It said, thank you guys for riding out the storm with us. And we, of course, are one of the people that are riding out with you. But do you think that that speaks to the importance of hotels that are not in an evacuation zone staying open to give people a safe place to go?
Absolutely. Hotels are essential. You know, we're here for people when they need somewhere to go, when they need peace of mind. And it's our pleasure as hoteliers to be able to provide that comfort to our guests. It's personally one of the reasons that I enjoy working in hospitality.
What do you think that you're going to see in Ybor City as the daylight comes up, the winds kind of calm down?
An amazing sense of community. Something that's amazing around here is there's a lot of people that have been here for a long time, generation after generation, and in times like this, through the chaos, you really get to see the sense of community. And I think that you guys are going to see that tomorrow morning when things calm down.
I think that you're right. I think that we're not only going to see that here, but we're going to see that in a lot of different places. Thank you so much for allowing us to stay here. Give us a safe place to be as we continue to report and bring you guys the latest on Hurricane Milton. Obviously, we know that it made landfall, those heavy winds coming through downtown Tampa, and that rain, too. A lot of rain. I think that maybe we didn't expect to get this much rain and be under that warning that we're under right now. But the guests here feeling confident, they're feeling comfortable. Of course, just listening and watching the winds continue to whip, but that's the latest here in Ybor City, guys.
All right. Well, a shout out to those folks at the hotel in Ybor there. Appreciate them watching here. And Bobby's keeping an eye on the rainfall totals. Boy, massive amounts of rain in the area, Bobby.
So St. Pete, Albert Whitted Airport is now up to 17.25 inches of rainfall, 24 inches of rainfall. It's probably be 0.5 by this time. Between 8 o'clock and 8:53, they saw 5.09 inches of rainfall. That's the reason why we have that emergency, flash flood emergency going on right there. But look where that was there. That rain is lightening up a little bit. It's now moving a little bit further to the east. But look down here on the south side. Not seeing much rain. We've got a ton of wind down here still, but certainly not as much rain. Now, the heavier rain will continue to move off towards the east. You can see the reds. That's what you're looking for the heavier rain. So it is slowly pulling away. Rainfall rates will get lower here in central western Hillsborough, Pinellas County. But remember, the ground's completely saturated, a lot of wind, and we still have a lot of heavy rainfall to fall. So St. Pete's going to be pushing 20 inches of rainfall by the time this is said and done. The forecast was 10 to 15. So that's up there. Now let's talk some winds. Zephyr Hills, 53 mile per hour wind gusts. Brooksville, sustained right now at 38. Spring Hill's about the same, 67 mile per hour gusts. We've got 84 just this past hour in St. Pete, 83 in Tampa. Obviously, the highest that we've seen so far is in Sarasota, and that's at 102. But notice where all of that rain is where we actually have some really good winds up into Hernando County, Pasco County, and parts of Citrus as well. That blue air, the darker blues you see there, those are some really good winds. So out the eastern part of the county, this is just a Doppler estimate, but it's about 83, and that's a little bit higher in the ground, but that's talking wind gusts in the 70s. All right, eastern Hernando County. You get out towards central areas, south of Brooksville, it's a little less, but 70 mile per hour velocity at that level in the atmosphere, that's still gusts in the 60s, and this number's come down. We've actually seen gusts, I think it was Brooksville that saw a gust to 75 earlier. And you can see, you get out in southwest, this is not far from Weeki Wachee, Spring Hill area, 78 mile per hour winds just above the surface. So that's gusts in the 70s as well. So yeah, plenty of wind. You get down into Pasco County, Wesley Chapel, Lutz, wind just above you at 84 miles per hour. So you translate that down to the surface, we're still seeing gusts to hurricane in the mid 70s in those locations, and that will continue. Now, let's look at the numbers. These are official numbers. That radar just kind of looks at all of it so we can see it, but it's an estimate. These are from regulated anemometers. 90 in St. Pete, peak gusts so far. 102, as you see there in Sarasota. But look at Brooksville at 75 mile per hour. Hurricane force wind gusts there. 46 in Crystal River, a much different storm for Crystal River. 54 in Clearwater, just about 80 mile per hour wind gust for Winter Haven. All right, so yeah, the gusts have been high. Here's some other numbers. Obviously 102 in Sarasota, the highest, but Egmont Channel, Egmont Key right there, 100 mile per hour winds. Albert Whitted, 90s. St. Pete Clearwater, 83. Sarasota Bradenton, that was 93. That's an old number. That went up to 92. In fact, that was on the east side of the eye. And then it went calm because the eye went over that area. And then it went to 102 on the backside. Remember we were talking earlier that the higher gusts would likely be on the backside because it's coming in off of the Gulf and there's nothing to slow it down. But that now will be coming down. Venice had 97. MacDill Air Force Base at 67. I think we might have gotten a higher one since then. Lakeland at 56 and Tampa's been at 83. That's of 9 o'clock this evening. So wind gust forecast. And here's the good news. We're getting there, right? We're getting towards this all starting to slowly come down. So again, another, 2-3 hours, maybe 4 hours of kind of where we're at. I think it's actually going to be a little less than what we've seen already. I think the worst is really for Pinellas County, Western Hillsborough, Western Manatee. The worst is behind us now at this point. But it's going to take a good hour or two before we really start to see things slowly start coming down. This forecast is actually for Tampa, and you can see before the sun comes up, we're looking at gusts generally only in the 40s. All right, so it's coming down, but that is out of the north and the northwest. That means anywhere along the coast, from Sarasota even, but all the way up Pinellas County, Pasco County, Hernando, and even Citrus County, these gusts will be robust through the overnight hours because there's nothing to slow them down. So it's not quite the same forecast as like this much wind is just moving away. You have to factor in the fact that it's coming in off of the water. So it's going to be a loud night out there. Power outages still likely to go down because the other side of this too is we've had a lot of east to northeast wind. Well, it started southeast. Then it went northeast, and that wind that we've seen, all those gusts in Pinellas and Hillsborough, and Hernando, Pasco, those have been northeasterly winds. It's going to go to the northwest, and that's a little bit different wind direction, obviously. And so things that are leaning this way are going to get blown a little bit different angle. And we're going to see more stuff come down, guys, over the next several hours. So even power outages, even as the higher wind's moving away, we still have a chance for more power outages in those areas.
You know, Bobby, I know that transformers are blowing right now in South Tampa. People are having power here, power not there. It's certainly lighting up, I think, the night. You know, having power than not having it. Chris Hurst is live for us in Orlando this evening. And Chris, another lull for you, but certainly expecting more to come.
Well, actually, Courtney and Dave, it's probably the most intense we've seen Milton so far. The winds, for the most part tonight, have not been the kind that kind of push you on the balls of your feet, but it's starting to do that for me here now as we are in the 10 o'clock hour in Orange County. Now, we're here because so many hundreds of families are at this one hotel, at hotels all over the Orlando area, seeking refuge from Milton. They evacuated from the Tampa Bay area. Some, of course, we've shown you, are in hotels in the counties where they live. Many others could not find any options until they went farther east, north, or south. And so we have a huge congregation of families here that have been sort of holding their breath, waiting to see just how much Milton would unleash upon us here. But you can see that we're actually in a little bit of a lull as the gusts kind of come every few minutes, but it's certainly the most intense that we've seen the wind here, gusting now finally up in the Orange County area into the 50, 60 mile an hour range, but staying pretty steady, 39 to 45 miles an hour. And that also cuts into portions of Hardy County. Then you go north of that, you get into eastern and northern Polk counties, so Haines City, Auburndale, Davenport. Those communities are also facing some of the same wind and rain that we are seeing here in Orange County. The rain really not an issue right now. It's coming down in bunches, and when the wind is picking it up, it is sort of sheeting in the air and on the roadways. But right now the wind is the main factor, Courtney and Dave, as people are still inside the lobby looking out, seeing what Mother Nature has in store. And now we are starting to see the winds associated with Milton. And of course, based off of what Bobby has been showing you and the rest of the meteorological team, that hurricane could come right over here over Orlando as a Category 1. So the winds could continue to pick up, Courtney and Dave, as we go into the overnight hours.
All right. Thanks very much, Chris. We want to go live right now to Largo and a live look at the scene there. This is at West Bay Drive and Clearwater Largo Road. Again, common scene around the area. Very strong winds blowing those palms right there, and just sheets of rain across the roads. Nobody there, of course. Why would anybody be out in this mess right now?
You kind of, looking at this, you're waiting for the palm trees to almost snap.
Yeah,
but
they're pretty
bend.
durable, aren't
yes,
they?
Yes, they do. They bend in these storms. Luke Clary is live for us in St. Pete. His power went out. We're going to get to him in just a moment because we want to show you how many customers are without power at this moment. Duke Energy, nearly 500,000 customers. Florida Power and Light, more than 350,000. TECO, more than 230,000. These numbers are much higher than what we saw around 5 o'clock when we were saying 8,000.
Right.
Significantly up in just a matter of hours.
Yeah, and Luke, as we mentioned, Luke Clary in downtown St. Pete. He's at a hotel. Luke, your power went out temporarily. Appears to be back on now.
Well, we're on generator power right now. And quickly, I just want to say we sent you some video a little earlier of a transformer flashing. I don't know if you can cue that up for us on the fly, but in the meantime, why don't we go ahead and just take a look out here through the windows so you can get another view of how things are looking for us right now. It's pretty dark out there. 6,000 customers in downtown St. Pete are without power right now, 320,000 or so throughout Pinellas County, and we are on generator power right now. We had the lights flickering over the last several hours until we heard a big boom about 30 minutes ago. The power went down, the lights went down, and then they came back up a little lower than they were earlier. You know, people here still seeming to be in pretty good spirits and making the best of a bad situation. The manager here opened up the ice cream freezer, so we see people, staff, guests, everybody's getting a little ice cream to, you know, get through the evening. So again, people are still hanging out in this lounge area where folks had their dinner earlier this evening. We can probably talk to some folks if you'd like that. But for now, yeah, everything is looking pretty good. We're on generator power. I'm told by the manager that there are a couple of hours, we should be able to make it for a couple of hours, just enough time for people to get up into their rooms, taking the elevators, and then everybody here is just going to have to hunker down and get through the next several hours of this storm.
Yeah, Luke, I know you've been talking to people there. Are they in pretty good spirits given the fact that they are not at their homes right now? At least they're on a place with a backup generator, which is a great thing because so many homes just do not have generators around here, so at least they have power.
Yeah, we have power for a little while. We're told that it will last for a couple of hours, so that gives everybody enough time to charge up their devices, to get up into their rooms and settle in for the evening. There's really not anywhere else to go. I should also mention, though, that sewer service here, it appears, is out, so toilets cannot be flushed right now. That's another inconvenience here. But again, for now, everybody's holding up pretty well, and we've got a roof over our heads, and for anybody who wants it, there's ice cream in the freezer.
Well, everybody loves ice cream. There's no doubt about it. Wish we had that here. At least you have that luxury tonight. Yeah.
And if you're just now joining us here, coming up on 10:30 as we continue our coverage, you're watching 10 Tampa Bay. I'm Courtney Robinson along with Dave Wagner, and we've gone through a number of changes. We saw, obviously, Hurricane Milton make landfall as a Category 3 on Siesta Key. That was around 8:30. Here we are 2 hours later, still dealing a punishing blow to so many of our communities, and we still have not seen the full impact of this, but there are a few things that we want to make sure that you know right now. We just talked about landfall, and there are a lot of people without power, more than 1 million customers. And then the sewer plants, that's a big issue for the city of St. Petersburg. Northeast, southwest St. Pete, those water treatment plants taken offline. So you want to make sure that you are mindful about draining water, flushing toilets, that sort of thing, because it can back up into your homes.
Yeah, we saw this during Hurricane Helene, where they had to take the Northeast sewage treatment plant offline as a proactive measure because they didn't want salt water incursion. So they did that, and that seemed to work for them. It didn't, as a result, the plant did not get damaged, but it took a little time for that to get back online. So we don't know when that's going to happen. St. Pete will let us know when that's going to happen. So even if you were to go back home, let's say there wasn't any damage at your place, you'd like to get back home, keep in mind you can't flush your toilet. So maybe where you are right now is the best option until they fix that. But that's what they're dealing with in St. Pete right now.
And as we, I'm sorry, let me just get set here. I want to give you a live look right now at West Bay Drive. This is Largo because we're looking at some surge that we're seeing, and you can see that. We're starting to see a little bit of surge in many of our communities, but though it is not as high as we expected it to be, which is really great news.
Yeah, I mean, the prediction had been really catastrophic surge, and that was the terrifying thing for so many of us in the Tampa Bay area. It's like, number one, people can't survive that, so we better get out. But will our homes survive it? And that's been the question. Now we've got this massive amount of rain and what that may be doing in terms of flooding. There are some areas, as you know, in the Tampa Bay area that when we have high tide, they flood. Imagine like in St. Pete, Albert Whitted, I mean, they're talking 17 inches. How do these storm drains handle that? It's tough, very tough.
With the rainfall. And then, it is important, though. There's potentially deadly surge that's happening in Southwest Florida. We've shown you throughout the evening the live pictures from Punta Gorda. That is a lot of water. You saw the video from Fort Myers as well. A lot of water in downtown Fort Myers. And this, when we talk about the rainfall, this is kind of in an inland area right here on Hillsborough Avenue.
Yeah, this is where we are. This is just outside the temporary studios that we have right here. And the one thing about this, we're on relatively high ground. While it's blowing and raining outside, we feel safe. We had to evacuate. Our studios are right on the inland waters of Tampa Bay on Gandy Boulevard, and we were in evacuation zone A. We had to leave. We were ordered to leave, like many of you, so we did because we were concerned about the building flooding.
Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins is here. And Bobby, you have an update for us.
Yeah, Cat 2 now. As it comes down, you can see the center now over central Manatee County. This is not far, well, northern parts of Lakewood Ranch, really. In between there and Duet is where the center is. Still the very heavy rainfall. See the reds here? Watch them come out of Hillsborough into eastern Hillsborough from that ice, because I'm really concerned about, there's a ton of flooding right now in this I-75 corridor here, all the way down to Ruskin. But now it's Fishhawk into Plant City, and that's going to move up I-4 for the heavier rain. Ton of wind out here on the backside. So even though the highest winds are moving away, we're actually not, because it's coming in off of the water here eventually. And so power outages are piling up for the areas in northern Pinellas, northwest Hillsborough, and western Pasco County. And this is all moving off towards the north and the east. Let me get some of the latest numbers there for you. And because they just downgraded this, and we expected that. They're actually calling for it to go through to about 90-mile-per-hour winds by the time it gets over to the other side. As of 10 p.m., it's down to 110. 111 is the beginning of Cat 3. And Cat 3 is considered major hurricane. Anything Cat 3 and above is considered. So it's just below still a major hurricane. But the pressure's coming up 958, still moving around 16, 17 miles per hour. And it's now 20 miles northeast of Sarasota and pulling away. And you can see, well, that's not, put that in there. And you can see how it's been just slowly downgraded as it comes to move on shore. It's 16, 17 miles. Imagine driving your golf cart from here to across the state. It's going to take a little time before that happens, right? And so you can see the backside of it. That's the good news, is that the winds will slowly start to come down. The rain will start to come down for western parts of Florida, west central Florida. But, we were just talking to them up in Orlando, and he's right. He said the wind's going to pick up, and it is. It's going to start picking up in the Orlando area, and the rain will get heavier for them as well. So that's going to continue to move off towards the east. This is the track for what it's worth, but you can see it going across and staying as basically a hurricane. 70-mile-per-hour winds tomorrow afternoon, just about there. But that's well off the East Coast, and it's weakening at that point. But it's going to take some time to get there. Look, there's warm water that has fallen all across this area. And it's Florida, so it's not exactly a bad atmosphere for it. It is over land, and that's why the weakening will continue. So right now, what you want to do is, if you're in eastern parts of Hillsborough, western Polk County, especially, say, Bartow, Plant City's in Hillsborough, but Plant City to Lakeland to Bartow, eventually Haines City, be prepared for flooding conditions. All right, because we're going to get very heavy rainfall, probably 3 to 4 inches of rainfall in just about an hour's time when that little area goes through there. And that's on top of what you've seen on top of it. Now, if you're watching from Hardy and DeSoto and Highlands County, it's not even raining in most of that area, and I don't see a whole lot. There will be some coming as this moves away. You'll get some of this bottom part of it, but that would be just about it. The building. Yeah, the building's moving. Yeah. So let's go out. Let me zoom out just a little bit here. And so you can kind of tell just how fast these cells are moving. And then look at these cells out here. It's more being pushed out than anything else. That is less wind, and that is coming. Okay? And so the core of this is moving away. It will take the highest winds. As we were talking earlier, though, that wind field kind of spreads out at the same time that it's falling apart. So it went from 3 to 2. But the lower winds spread out a little bit more. And so what it ends up doing is just keeping a real steady wind for several hours. And that's why we're thinking after midnight, Some areas right along the immediate coast will start to see a little bit less, but it's really going to take till 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and then it drops off by 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, at least down to the 40s for gusts. So gusts expected in the 70s for the Tampa Bay area next 3 hours at least, and then slowly coming down. Rainfall will keep adding up. We've seen some of the heaviest that we're going to get in Pinellas, in Pasco. Hernando, still a few heavy showers there east of Spring Hill, east of Brooksville. But that will thin out just a little bit. And then eventually we'll start to see all of it move off towards the east over the next couple of hours. Let's look at some precip totals here. And you could, wow, I mean, look at some of these areas in northeast Hillsborough County, over a foot. Clearwater, mainland Clearwater, 10 inches. And then, of course, 17 inches. I mean, that's just a crazy number, 17 inches for Albert Whitted for rainfall. Should set a record, especially in the amount of time that it happened. And probably going to be right mainly north of I-4 all the way up through Orlando with very heavy rainfall. The track is pretty much off to the northeast just like that, so it's not that much should change. Bigger picture, there is some drier air on the backside of all of this, and that's what will be moving in here as we go through the next 24 hours or so. So there you go. You can see, let me zoom this way out for you. Almost all of the watches and warnings that we have right now, all of those dark reds, that's flooding issued stuff. That's basically flash flooding. And that will continue. Obviously, it will continue as it moves off towards the north and the east. Tornado threat is just about done. Not concerned about that for our neck of the woods. And there's some clearing. We're going to get some of that as we get into tomorrow. And we really don't talk much about extended forecasts in these situations. But and look, and there will be cleanup, right? But for behind this is nothing like what happened with Helene. We will have much cooler air and drier air. So tomorrow, about 83, and that's with some sunshine and a good breeze in the afternoon. But look at Friday morning, 64 degrees, and that's in Tampa. It'll be cooler. Northern Pasco, Hernando, Citrus County, we're talking low 60s. And then we're going to keep mid-60s for lows through the upcoming weekend. Highs, a beautiful weekend ahead, to be honest with you. Highs in the mid-80s at that point, guys.
Wow.
Bobby, thank you. We have some new video that's coming in right now. This is from Davis Island. I want you to see what's happening right now on the island. There's about 4 feet of storm surge right there. You can see this is near the village area, from a home near the village. And that right there is on all the streets. Again, about 4 feet of surge right there. And you're kind of panning back and forth. You'll also see the transformers that you can see you'll see those blow in the background, lighting up the sky kind of throughout, not only on the islands, but also off as you look kind of towards South Tampa. And again, just showing you that, yes, while it wasn't that major, there you saw it right there, that major surge event, there is water that is on Davis Islands. And I think that kind of shows too, Bobby, just how much water we've already had, and there's just nowhere else for it to go.
Yeah, well, there's a combination of
Yeah.
rainfall trying to drain.
Right.
Right? And clogged up, and then you had the surge coming up just a little bit. And then also that northwesterly wind can blow some water towards Davis Island.
And notably, what you don't see right here is all of the debris. There was
Yeah.
a good bit that was still left on the island. So, just if you've evacuated and you're trying to see what things look like, this is what it looks like, just around 10:30 on Wednesday night. Milton already making landfall. This is Davis Islands with, and I'm told it's about 4 feet that they would estimate.
Let's go live to Clearwater right now. This is State Road 60 at Island Way, and you get kind of a sense here as to what it's like. This is, for those of you unfamiliar with the area, and I believe you see perhaps transformers in the background there as well. But if you've ever been to Clearwater Marine Aquarium, or that's right around that area there, or if you've been to the Sound Amphitheater there in Clearwater, it's just as you look northwest from there, that's where this area is. But it's really, it's all on the water there, so it's fairly vulnerable to storm surge, and but that's a live look at that area tonight.
Taking you farther south to southwest Florida, another area that is vulnerable to storm surge is Fort Myers, and we've seen just how at risk they are. This is downtown Fort Myers, and you can see the flooding on the streets there. This is kind of near the marina, the convention center, and a good bit of water on the ground there this evening, giving you a good 360 view all around. And you can kind of, you see the road signs as well, so you can understand just how deep this water might be, but all the way up and down the Gulf Coast, there is still water damage this
You
evening.
just hate that for them, too, after all they've been through. Emerald Morrow is down in Bradenton. She's been making friends wherever she goes. She's a lovely person, so not at all surprised. But Emerald, what are you seeing down there? Who are you talking to?
Okay, so Dave, last time, remember I was like, I'm not going out there. I'm not messing around. I feel a little bit better, so we're going to just step out. The wind gusts are not as strong, so I feel comfortable stepping outside because you guys know I'm not going to do anything to put myself in danger. But like I said, the wind gusts have calmed down. It's still raining a little bit in the area. We do have some people out here who are watching the hurricane as it passes. We have Shandon. Come on over. So Dave, you asked who I met. I met Shandon.
Hi.
Hi. So nice to be here with you. Not really under these circumstances, but you seem to be in a great mood. Now, Shandon told me that he does restorations, and he's in town working on Longboat Key after Hurricane Helene. So talk to me a little bit about, being in town and having to evacuate here.
It was a little different. We don't like to be here under these circumstances. And we definitely did not see this coming for quite some time, but we had to make some adjustments. And obviously we brought a lot of crews down and we're working on Longboat. And as soon as the evacuation came, we had to get out. So it was kind of a kink in our plans to evacuate it and move so quickly. But we got everybody out safely, and this is the nearest place that we could evacuate to. But we're in good spirits. The last thing we want to do is panic and cause more chaos. So all you can really do is just have good spirits about it and ride this thing out.
Yeah, that's a really great attitude to have. You came down from Michigan, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you don't get these types of storms up there in Michigan.
We do not, no.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about the work that you were doing on Longboat Key.
About every place had storm surge on Longboat Key, so we were working pretty extensively on a lot of condos and resorts there, trying to get them dried out and residents back in place as soon as possible. And obviously this puts a little damper into it, but we're going to wait for the storm to pass. We're going to wait for everything to check out, and we'll get back in there and assess and make sure everything's safe to get back in order.
So is this going to extend your stay even longer? Are you going to stay around to do cleanup after Hurricane Milton?
I expect myself and a bunch of other people in this industry to be here for at least a year. So there's a lot of damage here. There's a lot of people that have damage to their homes. It's going to take a lot of time. There's only a certain amount of companies that do what we do, and we're going to get everybody put back together, but it's going to be quite some time, I think.
Wow, a year. I was not expecting you to say a whole year. That's a really long time, but you'll get to go back and be with family here and there, correct?
Yeah, I'll go back and check in. We'll probably come down here for 2-3 weeks at a time, go back for a few days, and come back and continue to get everybody back in their homes and their buildings stabilized and everything else and put back together. So.
Yeah, and emotionally, talk to me about when you're working on these homes, you must encounter so many people who are just at their wits' end, who just, are gutted.
Yeah. That's the one thing that's bad about my job, but also good. So we meet people on the worst days of their lives, but also we're here to put their lives back together. So it's quite the emotional process throughout the whole thing, but at the end, when people give us a hug, it's worth it. When we can get residents back in and everything put back together the way it was pre-loss condition, that makes it all worth it.
Yeah. Shandon, wow, thank you so much for the work you do, and thank you for taking a little time to talk with us.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Continue to be safe. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so you heard Shandon giving a really good story. I mean, I was almost inspired by what he had to say about coming in and doing that type of work and helping people recover. It's just truly amazing. And, this is the type of spirit that we will see. I know this community is going to come together and after Hurricane Milton, make sure that we wrap our arms around each other as this community works to recover. Reporting live in Bradenton, Emerald Morrow, 10 Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Emerald, good points there. I'm just wondering, how are people handling not knowing what they're necessarily going back to? Like, for example, in St. Pete, they don't have, the problem with sewage, but and the people don't know whether or not their homes are damaged. How are they handling extending their reservations there? Are they going to have to get out, let's say, by tomorrow or the next day? Do you know how the hotel's handling that?
So, Dave, I can tell you I spent quite a bit of time talking to a woman here who, she says she's homeless. She had a home along the Manatee River, and when Hurricane Helene came through, it just destroyed her home. So she has actually been here since Hurricane Helene. So just imagine what that woman is going through. So the hotel has been gracious, and she talked about how the community's really come to wrap their arms around her and bringing her food and gift cards and things like that. And she just had this incredible spirit about herself and just was, in a way, just relieved to have somebody to talk to and just to listen to her story. So I'm glad, even though that she's not here with me, standing by me for a live interview, that I'm able to share her story, because she just is a shining example of hope even in tragedy. But the hotel has been gracious to us even. So they are definitely working with people. Again, as I've said many times tonight, anxiety is high. We've spent time on Anna Maria Island where we will walk down the street and you just see piles and piles of debris. I know it's something that we have seen throughout our Hurricane Milton coverage, but people, again, this anxiety is so high. We spoke to a woman, she was walking her dog, taking her dog Ayla for a little walk before the storm came through. She was like, I have to have something normal in my routine because we don't know what we're going to come back to. We have 2 homes on the island, and you know, this is just too much. We were also recovering from Hurricane Helene. So those are the emotions that people feel, and those are what the things that they are going through during this time. So, you know, again, I just think the community, whether it's businesses like hotels or just, you know, your everyday person, they're really coming together to wrap their arms around the people who are going to be and are now impacted by Hurricane Milton.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. Animals have a way of kind of centering us during these tough times, kind of being kind of a calming force for us, which is great.
Yeah, and I remember that woman, actually. I took a note because she said, will it ever be the same again?
Yeah, good point.
And it's a question I continue to ask myself as I'm looking at all of this, because, you know, Dave, we saw after Hurricane Ian, and it isn't the same. Again, and it's a new normal, but still not the same.
And it's not only changed what it looks like in that community down in Fort Myers. It's changed the mentality of people and how it's made them more fearful, more cautious. They certainly take these storms very, very seriously.
And I think we're learning that lesson here in Tampa Bay. You're seeing Siesta Key. This is Midnight Pass Road, which is that major roadway on Siesta Key. And you can see the winds right there just, you know, blowing through. You can only imagine what it looks like on the ground there. This is where Hurricane Milton made landfall at 8:30 this evening as a Category 3, a very powerful hurricane.
Yeah, and we'll find out what kind of damage we see tomorrow morning. You see some of that right here, the wind pushing down a power pole right there. And that is in St. Petersburg. So winds are strong there. We know there's a tremendous amount of rain as well. Albert Whitted, more than 17 inches of rainfall. So you can imagine the ground is pretty saturated, and these power poles and other things. It looks like maybe that was put up fairly recently. That almost looks like a palm tree.
It looks like a palm
there.
tree to me.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to look at. It looks like a palm tree because it almost looks like the boards that they have that hold them up right there.
Yeah, their roots aren't real deep either.
Yeah.
So
Coming down right there. I mean, these wind gusts are just unreal. 10 Tampa Bay's Hannah Deneen is live for us this evening, tonight, in Brooksville. And Hannah, what are you seeing there right now?
Well, Courtney, these wind gusts have gotten more extreme throughout the night. We're standing outside of our hotel here in Brooksville, and you can see behind me how quickly that rain is blowing past that street lamp. And I was just checking in with Colleen, our meteorologist back at the station. We heard Bobby talk about this earlier, but it's worth emphasizing when we're looking at these wind gusts that here in Brooksville, they saw maximum wind gusts of 75 miles per hour this evening. Now these are sustained gusts of around 50 miles per hour. And just south of us in Pasco County, their max wind speed that they're recording there was more than 80 miles per hour. And just standing out here, we are under an awning safely, but you can feel the power of this storm blow through this area. Sheriff Alneen Heist here in Hernando County, he did tell me me that they are hearing reports of trees down the roads as well as power lines down the roads. That's not even to mention the situation with the debris from Hurricane Helene remaining in so many neighborhoods across the county, both Hernando and Pasco. So there will certainly be a lot of things to work through before the roads get cleared. In both Hernando and Pasco County, they're asking people to stay off the roads for as long as possible. They're not even going to begin to get out and start evaluating the roads until tomorrow morning. So the longer that you can stay off the roads, the more time you'll give them to do their jobs, make sure that it's once again safe for you to be out and about. Their message tonight, they're united in asking everyone to stay hunkered down, stay in the interior parts of your home, and stay safe and be patient.
That's great advice, Hannah. Patience is so important right now.
It's tough, isn't it?
And it's so hard to wait, you know, and say I want to see what's happening, but you know, we have
wait.
plenty of time,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
we do. Let's check it with Colleen right now. She's keeping an eye on rainfall totals. A massive amount of rain in parts of the area.
Yeah, Dave and Courtney, and this is part of the problem because our ground is so saturated and waterlogged that these winds are easily toppling over those palm trees or whatever else may be standing. You think of how soft the ground is with so much rain just dumped in our area. So right now, some rainfall estimates for you across Pasco and Hernando County. We listen to your phone calls. Don't worry. I know some of you have been asking about those rainfall totals. Dade City, just south of that, we're seeing 8 inches of rain. And these are just estimates from our particular radar here. Definitely could be higher amounts. I do believe that we have higher amounts in select spots. This is just a roundabout way just to look at what we have across different counties. 7 to 8 inches generally across Pasco and Hernando County. And then moving down into Pinellas and Hillsborough County, much higher totals here. You see that highlighted in that yellow contour where we're seeing anywhere from 10 to 14 inches depending where we are. And again, these are just estimates from our in-house model, but we know for sure some of our gauges picking up on a substantial amount of rain, and that's why they issued that flash flood emergency. 16 inches of rain at Albert Whitted Airport, but that was about an hour ago that we got that reading, so much more rain than that. And that was dumped in a short period of time, and that's what flash flooding is all about, right? We have a lot of rain come down in a short period of time, and after a major rainfall event like this, you can still get flooding hours after. You can get flooding 6 hours after a main rainfall event because there's nowhere for all of that water to go. All of that water in those smaller local areas, the creeks, the streams, the ponds, the rivers, they're just swelled up and they have nowhere to go. So that's what happens. We have that flash flooding that can extend for periods of time. And that's why we have a flash flood warning that's going until 2:30, that flash flood emergency, they tagged it as, for Hillsborough, Manatee, and Pinellas County. And then we actually had another one that was issued for Hillsborough, Pasco, Polk, and Sumter counties, and that goes until 4 a.m. So the same counties are covered, just kind of different areas. They extended it a little bit just as we have that change up of the storm. The storm continues to move eastward. Hurricane Milton, and of course the impacts will change as well as the storm kind of makes its journey there. So right now I kind of clicked around here. We did have precip rates coming down about 2 inches an hour over in Polk County. So I do believe that we still have that in some areas, starting to lighten up in other areas. But again, it all depends where we're getting that spin. Right now it looks like the heaviest rain currently moving through Polk County. And again, there's that flash flood warning that's popping up. And a lot of those areas tagged under that flash flooding emergency because you can just have a ton of water rush down to a location after being dumped on like this. So just keep that in mind that although you may not see flooding, right, it's wet everywhere, right? But hours later, that's what we have to emphasize, that you can still have flooding hours after a big rainfall event. Wind gusts are also something to talk about. Pretty impressive gusts here. We had gusts at 101 in St. Petersburg, Sarasota at 102, and Brooksville, I did reach out to Hannah Deneen. You saw her out there live. And yeah, they had that 75 mile per hour gust. Now, recently when I checked, they were back down to the 50s for those gusts. But again, It just depends how the wind blows, and we will have some gusts that are still pretty high in the triple digits in spots. So here's those high wind reports. Again, this was updated at 9 p.m. and it's an ever-changing event, right? So as soon as we get the information, we deliver it to you. Definitely a storm that we keep saying is impacting from coast to coast. Here's a recap of that landfall in case you missed that event. Siesta Key is where that made landfall as a Category 3 hurricane. Had winds at 120 miles per hour and the time was around 8:30. Look at the radar here. Again, you can see how the rain is taking up really the entire northern slice of the peninsula here. And that flash flood warning highlighted in the maroon going way beyond our viewing area, going to where Chris Hurst is currently placed over in Orlando, and they're starting to see those rainfall rates become a little bit heavier as well. Siesta Key tides, I guess we'll talk about this because we have it up. As far as the tides go, we still are approaching high tide. That's another concern, right? We have higher water that's on the way for Siesta Key where we had landfall, and that's around 3:30 tomorrow morning. I'm not going to go into local impacts here because, again, our impacts are changing as the storm progresses and continues its journey out to the east. But we are going to have another update for you with Chris Vickers in a little bit, and I hope you stay tuned for that.
All right, Colleen, thank you so much. And, I know you want to know what's happening in your neighborhoods, what's happening around our community. We do have Evan Klosky, who is who is in downtown Tampa. He's joining us live by phone. Evan, what's the power situation in downtown Tampa, and what are you seeing? Evan, can you hear us? I know we've had some difficulty here and there. Can you hear us? I'm wondering, Evan Klosky joining us by phone. Evan, what are you seeing, and is there power in downtown Tampa?
All right.
Yeah, I can hear you. I have you, Evan. Can you hear me? All right. I'm sorry, we're not hearing you. We're not hearing you over air, but we'll come back to you, Evan. We'll work on to fix that and then come back to you. Evan says they do have power in downtown Tampa. If you're just now joining us, it's 11 o'clock almost here on 10 Tampa Bay, and a lot has happened since 8:30 p.m. when Hurricane Milton made landfall on Siesta Key as a Category 3 storm.
Yeah, 3 things to know right here. Milton made landfall at 120 miles an hour. More than 1 million customers are without power in the state of Florida right now. They're working to restore that, and amazingly, some of the self-restoration, self-healing technology has helped with that. Northeast and Southwest sewer plants in St. Pete are shut down. They did that proactively to make sure that there was not saltwater incursion into the control panel, but that was done there, and they don't know, they have not given us a time yet when that could be back on. Normally, it takes a little while for that process to occur, so we're going to have to wait for word for them before you can start using your toilets. The problem is, use your toilets in those areas that are handled by Northeast and Southwest sewer plants. Use your toilets, and sewage water could come up into your home.
And if this is maybe the first hurricane that you've been through, there are some things that you want to keep in mind because we're losing power, because pipes may have been broken, you don't know the situation. You really want to limit your water use anyway as we start to come through Hurricane Milton here. Duke Energy says that they have about 500,000, 500,000 customers without power at this moment. Florida Power and Light, more than 353,000, and TECO, almost 250,000 without power. And they are working to restore them, as you said, Dave, that self-healing technology in some cases. They're working to restore them as quickly as they're going off. But again, it's a numbers game.
It is. It is whack-a-mole, really, for them right now. Here's a number to call. This is the latest county-by-county emergency information. You can text HOME to 727-577-8522, 727-577-8522. Just text the word HOME to that. There is information county by county. We'll keep updating this information with power, water damage, and other critical emergency information.
And, you know, we have crews that are stationed really in all of our counties, but they are locked down because we want to make sure that they are safe. So we're bringing you what we can bring you from where we can in your county. So please understand that. This is the time lapse that you're seeing right here of landfall. This is Sarasota and Siesta Key, that landfall point. This is the first we're seeing this.
Yeah, this is, and this is probably, given that sunset occurred, this is probably a little bit before that, I would imagine, just given the skies there, right there. But you can see just how powerful it was coming across the skyline of Sarasota. That is such a beautiful city in our area, and you worry about the damage. So it's, you know, coming off the beaches there and into downtown Sarasota.
Until you imagine that camera probably went offline for us.
Sure, and a lot of cameras. You know, I've been checking my home cameras, and, it's frustrating because, you know, it's either internet
went
down.
Offline, and I've just held my breath.
Yeah, and it's a mystery as to what's going on there at home.